this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really pretty bracelet with the Deep Sea Jewels treasure bag. However, these particular units will work very well with an 8x6 rondelle too, which is very common and easily found. And so no matter where you're at in the world, you should be able to do this with an 8x6 rondelle. Little bit different look, but still very pretty, and you can do this bracelet regardless. These beads are in the Deep Sea Jewel treasure bag. However, I do have a bunch of strands on my website, and they are available for sale in different colors, so you can also do this if you would like. So don't feel left out or discouraged if you didn't get the treasure bag. Now, this is what this looks like. I'm going to take it off so you can see it laying out. This is a little bit more of an advanced project, so I wouldn't recommend it for your first bead weaving project. However, if you have done a few and you've kind of got the feel for bead weaving, this is still on the beginner's level. The process is fairly simple. It's just going to take patience and time because we're sewing through these beads and some of them are a little tight. So that will be the only drawback if you're a very beginner. Other than that, you should be able to accomplish this bracelet pretty easily, and this is what it looks like. So let's go ahead and look at the material list and get started. For this project today, we're going to be using some beads that were found in the Deep Sea Jewels treasure bag. However, if you do not have the treasure bag, you can replace the one bead I'm using from the treasure bag with an 8x6 rondelle. And there's a few tips that I will give you if you're using an 8x6 rondelle. This is what the unit will look like if you use an 8x6. So it's still very pretty. It's a little bit higher, a little bit different look, but it will still work. Now, what we are going to be using is the 8x4 flat, round, frosted and faceted beads that are in your bag. On my website, I have a bunch of these, and they are called 8x4 coin crystals. So I will put a link in the description box beneath the video player if you want to get some of these. I have them in several colors. So you can pick whatever color you'd like, and you can do this even if you didn't get the treasure bag. I'm going to be using one of the little toggle clasps that came in the treasure bag. You can use any clasp that you would like. Just keep the length of your bracelet in mind if you're using a larger size than I am, or smaller, whatever. Then we're going to be using some Toho seed beads, and I'm using an 8/0, and this is a frosted turquoise. And then I'm using a 15/0, and this is a sweet blush permanent finish. And then I am going to be using the permanent finish galvanized aluminum Toho, which is an 11/0. So you're going to need an 11/0, 15/0, and 8/0 seed beads. Then I'm going to be using some size 6-pound Fireline. You can use 8 or 10-pound Nanofil also, and you will need a size 12 beading needle. Any bigger size than a size 12 is going to be difficult to get through these beads. So you want to have a size 12 and a small thread, nothing larger than a 6-pound Fireline. So that's what we're going to be using. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, to start this project, you will put a wingspan of thread onto your needle. A wingspan is when you spread your arms out to your side like they're wings. You measure from the fingers of your first hand, the length of your first arm across your chest, the length of your second arm, and to the fingertips on that arm. That is a wingspan. You will need to extend your Fireline during this process, so I will leave a link for a video that will show you how to do that in the description box beneath the video player. So if you do not know how, you can learn how. Now, we are going to start by picking up onto our needle 3 11/0 seed beads and then an 8/0. And we're going to repeat that. 3 11/0s and an 8/0. And repeat it again. 3 11/0s and an 8/0. And one more time. 3 11/0s and an 8/0. So what you should have on your needle is 3 11/0s and you should have 4 sections of them and 4 8/0s dividing them. Start with your 11/0s, end with an 8/0. And then we will bring this to the end of the thread. You don't have to leave a long tail, but you do need to leave enough to tie a knot with. So we have a lot of thread. Let's bring this all the way down, and let's go up the first 3 11/0s and the first 8/0, just like this. Hold on to your tail, hold on to those beads, and pull your working thread through until your beads form a circle, just like this. And then sew back through all the beads. So I'm coming out this 8/0, I will go into the next 3 11/0s, and they'll get all out of shape. Just hold them between your fingers and then pull your thread through gently, because at this point you can pull them off the thread. Then continue, just go through the next section of 3 11/0s and an 8/0, and then again go through the next section of 3 11/0s and an 8/0. Now you should be where your working thread and your tail come together, and you're going to tie a knot with your working thread and your tail. So just cross your working thread over the tail and bring the tail through twice. We will do a surgeon's knot here. And then pull your knot down. Make sure it goes between your beads and not on top of them. Just like this. Now we can cut this tail down a little bit just to keep it out of our way, but don't cut it down really close to the beads because it can still slip through. Now we are going to sew up. So we're coming out where we tied our knot. So we're going to sew into the next 3 11/0 seed beads and exit the 8/0 behind them. So let's go into these 3 11/0s here. And then into the 8/0 seed bead. Now we're going to put our center bead in our unit in a very specific way, and I want you to make sure you use this path that I'm going to show you, because otherwise if you do not, your beads will just spin and they won't sit in there properly. So pick up one of your flat rounds or a rondelle, and you're going to go from this 8/0 to the opposite 8/0 on the opposite side. So you're going to go in a diagonal. We're coming out here, we're going in here. And pull this in. Bring your bead down and kind of push it into the beads. It won't go all the way in, but you want to arrange it the best you possibly can on top of those beads, like this. And then you are going to go sew all the way around these seed beads. Don't go back into the bead yet, just go into the seed beads you're next to and sew all the way around until you're in the 8/0 seed bead you attach to. So we've gone through these 3. Let's go into the 8/0 and the next 3 11/0s here. Then once you have done that, my thread keeps getting caught on my chair. That's crazy. Okay, once you have done that, I'm going to arrange my bead a little bit again, and then I am going to go into the 8/0 here, because I've gone through the 11/0s. I'm going to go into the 8/0. Then I'm going to go through the bead, the big bead in the center here, and then I'm going to go into the opposite side of the 8/0 from which I started on this one. So I'm coming out here, I'm going to go in here. And then I'm going to sew down the beads on this side. So I'm going through the 8/0 and the 3 11/0s on the other side of it. I'm going to pull this down, keeping my middle bead nice and positioned, and then I am going to go into the 8/0 and the next 3 11/0s. If I can get them. They tend to get kind of at a weird angle, so if you can't do that, just go through the 8/0 or whatever you can get through, and then pick up where you left off and continue through until you get to that 8/0 seed bead. And this is what I have. Now I'm going to get rid of this tail more, so I'm going to cut it down even more. I've got my end cutters instead of a pair of scissors. I don't know why, but I do. And then I'm just going to burn that down. But you can see I didn't let that blob go down inside the bead. I just let it go towards the beads, just like that. Now, we have the front of our unit where our bead is up and away. You want to turn over for this next step, and you want to go into, you want to do from the back this next step. So turn it over, and you'll know which is the back because the bead will be protruding on the front. Then you're coming out of this 8/0, you're going to go into the 2 11/0 seed beads and exit that middle 11/0 right there. Then you're going to pick up 3 15/0 seed beads, and you're going to skip this 11/0, this 8/0, this 11/0, and go into the middle 11/0 on the next section of 11/0s on the other side of the 8/0. And you have to find a good way to enter it because these beads are kind of tight. So I go from the outside at an angle, and I pull my thread through, and then I just pick up my beads, pull the thread to the other side until I can pull these beads down on the back side, and they will be in front of the 8/0 seed bead, just like this. Now we're going to do that again. We're coming out of this middle bead. We're going to pick up 3 15/0 seed beads, and we're going to go into the middle bead past the 8/0 in the next section of 11/0s. So I'm going to go towards the outside here and go between the beads in an angle. This is the worst part of this whole pattern, is it can be difficult to get into those middle seed beads. But just take your time. This is not going to be a rushed project. This is going to be one that will take a little time. It's a simple process. It just takes a little time. Now I've pulled those 3 15/0s down. Make sure there's no slack. They're nice and tight. And then pick up 3 more 15/0 seed beads onto your needle. And we're going to, again, cross over this 11/0, this 8/0, and this 11/0, and go into the middle 11/0 and the next section of 11/0s, past the 8/0. So I'm just going to kind of finagle my needle in there at an angle. Whoops, and pull my beads through. Then I'll just push my beads on this side and give them a nice tightening tug like that. And then one more time. So pick up 3 15/0 seed beads. You're coming out of this middle one. Now you're going to go into this middle one that you started in. And now it's kind of recessed, so you have to kind of finagle your way in there. I'm going at an angle again from the outside. And I'm going to pull these beads down, and then I'm just going to bring my thread forward and pull these beads down as many times as it takes to get them on the proper side here. And then as I tighten this, I'll pull my thread to the front. So we're working on the back. We're now going to go between these beads. We're coming out of this 11/0 here. We are now bringing our thread forward to the front. Make sure before you turn your piece over that it's nice and tight, you have no slack, and everything looks good. Then turn it over like this. You're coming out of this middle 11-0. Now we're going to pick up 4 15-0 seed beads for our front embellishment. So pick up 4. Come here. Jeez Louise. And then this now, because the beads are recessed, it's a little harder. So you may have to go from the back side and the inside at an angle. So I'm going from the back at an angle from the inside to get through that middle seed bead, like this. Pull your thread through, and then again, lift your thread up so it's going towards the front of the unit now, and bring these beads down over that 8-0 on the front side of your unit, just like this. Now, we're going to do the same thing again. Pick up 4 of your 15-0 seed beads, and then you're coming out of this 11-0, you're going to go into this one. And you can see if you can get it from the front at an angle. But I have found, especially if you're using a rondelle, it's easier if you go from the back side, from the inside, because it's pulled towards the inside, and then go at an angle, and just go through that 1 15-0, like that. However you can get through. Pull these beads down, and pull them nice and tight. You don't want to have any slack. And then let's do that again. So we're going to do that 2 more times. So pick up 4 15-0 seed beads, then find your middle bead on your next section and go through it at an angle. So you may have to switch your needle around a couple of times until you find an angle that will bring you through. Like I said, this is not a fast-moving project. Take your time. It's well worth it in the end. Push this up and do it 1 more time. So pick up 4 11-0 seed beads, or excuse me, 15-0 seed beads, and then we're going to go into this bead that we started in from the opposite side. So we're just skipping over and going into this middle one. And again, it's difficult to get through, so I'll go from the back. That's why you want to make sure you have a small needle for this, or you'll never be able to get it through. It's not hard, it just takes a little finesse. Then we're going to pull those up. And now this is our first unit. This is what the back looks like. This is what the front looks like. We're going to go ahead, we're coming out of this middle seed bead here. We're going to go into the next 11-0 and 8-0 and just exit the 8-0. Here we will put on our clasping so that we can move down into the body of the necklace, or bracelet, excuse me. So this is where we are now. We are going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and then we're going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead, and we're going to drop this down to our unit. We're then going to pick up our clasp and go through the loop of the clasp. Drop that down somewhere close to that 8-0, and then go back just through the 8-0 seed bead, right there. I hold on to it and pull my thread through, guiding that thread and clasp down to the 8-0. And then I will pick up another 11-0 seed bead. And I'll go through the opposite side of the bead I'm attaching to. So I'll pick it up and go through the 8-0 here. It's like this. Pull this down, and now I have my clasping. I need to sew through this 2 more times to ensure that it will be strong, tight, and neat. So now I'm coming out here. I'm going to go up through the 11-0, the 8-0, and up through the loop. Pull my thread through, go back down into the 8-0, and the 11-0 beneath it, and then go into the 8-0 I'm attaching to. Here. When you're handling your unit, don't push on your bead a lot or you'll push it off. It'll get off center and turn. So just handle it gently and then go ahead and sew through this clasping section one more time and we'll be back. Okay, so I have now secured my clasping and I'm coming out of the 8-0 seed bead right here that we attached to, and now we need to sew all the way down to this 8-0 on the bottom, the one opposite of the one we put our clasping on, so that we can start the body of our bracelet. So we're going to go through this 11-0 and the one behind it and the one behind it. It's kind of go at an angle. Even though one's recessed, you should be able to go through just fine. Then we're going to go through the next 8-0 and the next set of 11-0s. I can't get all of them, so I'll just go through one 11-0 and then see if I can get through the next one. So now I'm going through this 11-0, and the 8-0. And I'm going to get in just a little bit closer and pull this through. Now we're going to make a little extension that will go between the units. And this is a little bit different than just your basic right angle weave or something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead. Actually, let me remember how I did this. 3 11-0 seed beads and an 8-0. Sorry, I forgot. So 3 11-0 seed beads and an 8-0, and we're going to drop this down. Then we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and we're going to ignore the 8-0 and go into the middle 11-0, and just the middle 11-0, just like this. Hold on to that middle 11-0 and pull your needle and thread through. And I just pulled my needle off my thread. So I have to rethread my needle. Hang on one second. Sorry about that. I've been doing that a lot lately. Oh, what's up with that? But I've been doing that, and I apologize, but you know, hazards of the trade, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so what I have done, I'm going to get you really close so you can see, is I have just I picked up an 11-0, gone through that middle 11-0. And now I'm going to pick up another 11-0 and go through the 8-0 I'm attaching to on the opposite side from which I started. So we'll go into this 8-0 here, just like this, and pull this down. And this is what you should end up with. Now we're going to sew through this one more time to make sure that it's secure and strong, because it is an extension between units. So we're coming out of the 8-0, we'll go down into the 11-0 beneath it and the 11-0 in the middle, like this. Then you're going to go through the 11-0 on the same side from which you started, under here, underneath the middle bead, and then go into the 8-0 here, and just the 8-0 by itself to retain this shape. Then we're going to go through the 11-0 and the middle 11-0 on this side, and pull, and then go into the 11-0 here by itself, and then into the 8-0 we're attaching to. And that's what your unit looks like. We have to sew now down through so that we can get to the 8-0 and start our next unit. So I'm just going to go through this 11-0 here and the middle one if I can. And the one beneath it. So I'm just going at a diagonal and I'm going through all 3 of these 11-0s. and then I'm going to go through the 8/0 seed bead. And we're going to start our next unit. And the way we're going to do that is we have one of our 8/0s, but we still need to pick up the rest of the beads that we did in our original unit. So what we will do is we will pick up 3 11/0 seed beads. Let me back off a little here. 3 11/0 seed beads, and then we'll pick up an 8/0. And then we'll pick up 3 11/0 seed beads and an 8/0 and 3 11/0 seed beads and an 8/0. So this time we only need 3 8/0s, but we still need 4 sets of our 11/0s. So we'll pick up another set of 11/0s. And this is what you should have on your needle. 4 sets of 11/0s divided by 3 8/0s. Start and finish with your 11/0s. Bring this down to your unit, and then go back through the 8/0 that you're attaching to on the opposite side and pull your thread through. Then you're going to sew back through the entire thing just to make it secure and tight and strong. So we're going to go through all these beads. I like to go through 3 11/0s, then the 8/0, and I just do that all the way around until I get back to the bead I'm attached to. Okay, so I'm all the way around, and this is what I have, just a little circle. So our next thing will be to pick up one of our big round beads here, and we're going to put it in the center of the circle. So go through your bead here, your coin bead, and drop it down to the 8/0 you're coming out of. Arrange it on top the best you can, and then I'm going to turn it just this way. So I'm coming out of the big bead here. I'm going to go into the opposite side of the 8/0 in the opposite 8/0 from the one I'm coming out of. So I'm coming out here. I'm going to go out a diagonal and go into this side of the 8/0. And once I do that, I can start sewing through the 11/0s on the other side, just like this. So I've gone through the 8/0. I'm going through the 3 11/0s. I'm again going to go up into the 8/0 and 3 11/0s above that. Arrange your crystal as you're doing this so that it stays nice and neat. And this one is going into the circle a little bit better, so I'm going to pull my circle a little tighter. Should have done that before I put the big bead on. And then I am going to go into the 8/0 right here. And again, you're going to go at a diagonal. So you're going in this side from this side of the 8/0, go through the crystal, then go into the opposite side bead, 8/0 seed bead, on a diagonal. So you came in here, you're going through here, and come up through the beads here. So through all of them, and pull them tight. You want them to grip around that bead really well. Our first one is setting up a little bit higher. It made my circle a little bit tighter when I made it, but and pull it as tight as I can, and then I'm going to flip it over to the back. I'm going to go into the 11 O's on the other side of the 8 O I'm exiting, and then exit the middle 11 O right here. Make sure your bead is the proper position so it's nice and flat and centered, and then pick up 3 15-O seed beads onto your needle. And you're coming out of this middle 11-O, you're going to skip over the 11-O, 8-O, 11-O, and go into this middle 11-O, right there. And pull this down. Bring those beads over to the other side, if they go to the front, and pull it tight. Now this is where it's going to cinch and set your bead up. So you got to keep your bead arranged nice, and you have to cinch that in there pretty nice and tight. Make sure my bead is in the proper position. And then I'm going to pick up 3 15-O seed beads. And I'm going to go from this 11-O over to the next section of 11-Os and into the middle 11-O, just like this. Pull these 3 beads down, pull tight. Pick up 3 more 15-O seed beads. And again, skip over the 11-O, 8-O, 11-O, and go into the center 11-O on the next section of 11-Os. And pull tight. And again, pick up 3 15-O seed beads, and then we'll go into the opposite side of the 11-O we started in. So we'll go into this one here, and we're going to have to go at an angle. So I'm going from the inside at an angle and trying to push that through without stabbing myself to death. Let me get through there. Okay, I'm going to have to go through this way. Just like that. You'll find an angle where you can get your needle through, and then just pull this down. Pull very tightly. You want this to be very nicely tightened so that your bead will raise in the front here. And then pull your thread to the front. Okay, you're coming out of this 11-O here. You're going to pick up 4 15-O seed beads onto your needle. So in the back it's 3 15-Os. On the front it's 4 15-Os. And then you just go from 11-O in the center to 11-O in the center of the next section. And again, I'm going to kind of go from the back simply because it's hard to get through these beads if you don't. So I'm going to go through the back where it's recessed and pushed in. I can go on the inside by the big bead here, go through, and then I can pull my thread to the other side as I pull it up. And then I can pull my beads down and arrange them. And it looks to me like I got 2 11-Os mixed in with my 15-Os, which is not going to work. So I am going to fix that, and I'll be right back. Okay, let's do that again. So I am coming out of this middle 11-O seed bead here. I've picked up 4 15-Os and made sure they were 15-O this time. And then I'm going to go into the next center 11-O. I'm going to go from the back because I can get through it better, like this. I'm going to pull my thread through, push those 15-Os to the other side, making sure my thread goes up to the other side as I do that, and in between the beads and not on top of them, and pull this embellishment down, just like this. Now I'm going to back off just a little bit here, and we're going to pick up 4 15-O seed beads. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go from this center bead to this center bead on this side. So I'm going to go from the back, because where it's recessed, I can go right between those beads. Let me get you real close so you can see what I mean. I can just slide right in from the back. But I want the embellishment to go on the front, so I am just going to push it up there. And then I will arrange it. Make sure it's nice and neat, just like that. And you get this really pretty little like bezel made for your bead. Now we're going to pick up 4 more 15-0 seed beads. And again, I'm going to turn it over, go into this center 11-0 from the back, pull it through, push it over, turn it over, and tighten. Make sure each one you give a nice little tug. Tug straight through. Don't tug your thread up against the edges of your beads or you'll break it. But tug very nice and neatly, because this is what's going to hold your bead in place. Now, again, you are going to pick up 4 more 15-0 seed beads. And again, turn it over and go through the bead we started in, so it will be here. Go through it. This one's a little tougher. There we go, I got him. And pull your needle through. Turn it over. Pull your embellishment down. And then bring your bring your thread forward. Jeez, your thread forward like this. Now, we have to sew down to this bead in order to start our next unit. There's a couple of ways you can do this. You can go up through the 15-0s and down through the 11-0, or you can just go through the 11-0s, because you're coming out of this 11-0 here, the center recessed one, and then you're going to go through these 2, and you're going to go through these 3 here, and up through the 8-0, just like this. We'll make one more extension, and then I'll start you on the next one, and then you can just back up the video. Because these units take a little longer, the video will be really long if I do more than a couple. So now that I'm coming out of this 8-0, I want to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads onto my needle and an 8-0. And I want to drop this down, and then I'm going to pick up another 11-0. Drop it down. And then I'm just going to ignore the first 3 seed beads, so the 11-0, 8-0, and 11-0, and I'm going to go through the center 11-0 on my first 3 11-0s here. And I'm going to hold on to those beads and draw everything down and together. And then I'm going to pick up another 11-0. It won't be nice and neat and organized, let me get you even closer, until you go through the other side with your 11-0. So pick up another 11-0 and go through the other side of the 8-0 that we're attaching to, right here. And it's very easy to get through those 8-0s, just like that. Now we have to sew through that one more time. So we're going to go through, coming out of the 8-0, we go through the 11-0, and you can, if you want to, actually just go at a diagonal here. Instead of going through that one and that one, you can go through all 3 at a diagonal this way, like this. And then we'll go through this 8-0. And then we'll go through all 3 of these at a diagonal. So this one on this side, the center, and then this one on the opposite side. If I can get through them, like this. I'll hold on to that little extension and pull my thread through and go back through the 8-0 that I'm attaching to. And one more time, I'll go through these 3 beads at an angle and up through the 8/0 after I'm done. So I'll go through these 3 here, just like this, and into the 8/0 seed bead. I'll set you up for your next unit, and then you'll continue the entire unit on your own. And like I said, you can just back up the video and watch how I did this unit, and that should help. So what I'm going to do until you get a hang of the units, then of course you can just do it on your own. So we need to make our next circle. So we're going to start with 3 11/0 seed beads and an 8/0. We're going to have 4 sets of 3 11/0s and 3 8/0s. So we have 11/0, 3, 1 8/0, and then we pick up 3 11/0s and an 8/0, 3 11/0s and an 8/0, and then 3 more 11/0s. Just like this, and then we're going to drop it down. Now we're going to go into the other side of the 8/0 from which we're coming out. So we're coming out here. We're going to go this way. And then we're going to sew all the way around the entire unit. Whoa! Flying pieces of stuff. And then we're going to go this way, all the way up, and into this unit, or bead actually. Now, at this point, we will pick up our center bead and attach it. Now, the most important part to remember is to use the thread path I showed you on both of these units when you're putting in your bead. If you do not use that exact pattern of crossing over and then going through the beads, which cinches them up to the center bead, then your beads will be more likely to spin because of the shape of this. You can see this one's a little on its side, which is okay, but you do not want them to spin completely. So you need to do the thread path the proper way. If you have a rondelle, it doesn't really matter as much. So go ahead and continue making your units until you have 10 units with the extension in between. Now, this is going to be a little over a 7-inch bracelet, so you'll have to adjust the amount of units that you need for the length of bracelet you want to achieve. You can also end on a little extension if having another unit is too much, but not having something there is not enough. Then you can also end here and put your clasping on instead of doing your last unit. So I am going to put my clasping on the end here, and we're going to make it just a tiny bit longer than this side so that the toggle end will go through properly. So what we're going to do is we're coming out of the 8/0 here after the last unit, and we're going to pick up an 11/0 and 2 8/0s. And then, let me get you in a little closer here, we're going to drop this down to the unit. Now, I've done the 2 8/0s so that I have just a little bit more length on my clasping. Now I'm going to go through the other end of the clasp, the straight end, and then I'm going to go back through both of the 8/0 seed beads right here. And I'm going to pull my thread through and guide this all down to the piece. And then I'm going to pick up another 11/0. And we're going to go through the other side of the 8/0 that we're attaching to, just like this, and pull this through. Now, you're going to sew back through that 2 more times, just like we did on the other end. Just go through all the beads, up through the clasp, and back around. And do that 2 more times. You'll be coming out of the 8/0 when we come back, and we will tie this off. Okay, so now I have gone through my clasping twice, and I'm coming out of the 8/0 seed bead here. And right here, between the 8/0 and the 11/0 on the original unit, there's a little thread bridge. I'm going to turn this over just so I can see it better. And I am going to go right between these two beads and aim for that little thread bridge. So I'm putting my needle right here, and then I can bring my thread over as I loop it and make sure I'm between those two beads, and I'm just going to tie a little knot here. Drag it down between the beads, and then I can go up through these three 11/0s and the 8/0 here to get away from the knot. And then I'm going to tie another knot between this 11/0 and 8/0 here on the thread bridge between them. Make a loop, go through it, bring my knot down, and then I'll go through these three 11/0s here. And then I will go through the 8/0 here. I got the 11/0 too, but doesn't matter, that's fine. I'm going to turn it over and make sure, because I went underneath the embellishment here, make sure my thread is in a good spot here, and then I am going to cut it off. Leave a little tag, and of course you can use a thread burner, it doesn't matter. I just find that my thread burner is usually dead, so I just grab a lighter, get the heat close, and just roll that in. And now I have a bracelet. Let me show you. It's really pretty. Now this one takes a little bit of time. It can be difficult to get through the beads, so you have to manipulate your needle quite a bit to get through. So give yourself plenty of time, be patient. It will happen, and it turns out beautifully, so it's very much worth the patience. Then we're going to put this on so we can see what it looks like. And I will measure it in a minute and show you exactly how long it turns out to be. If I can get it on, let me see. Come here, you. And this is why we put the extra seed bead there too, is so that you can travel through it well. And that's what that looks like on. Here's my clasping. Very pretty. Fits nice. So let me take it off and measure it. Back off a little here. And I'm going to measure it from the middle of the toggle here. And it is 7.5 inches. So that works really well for me. Of course, if you're small, you can make it shorter. And if you're a little bit bigger, then you can make it a little bit longer. You have plenty of beads in your strand to do that with these. And we're only using 10 of that entire strand. So you can make several bracelets, or you can make matching pieces, whatever you would like. And I do have these beads on my website in several colors. I have a peach that's really pretty that would be gorgeous with gold and bronze seed beads. I may make myself one of those because I think that'd be really pretty. Anyway, thank you for watching this tutorial. And if you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell so that we can continue making pretty pieces together. See you later. Bye-bye.